Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson.
And I'm Haley Dudley.
And welcome back to the Steven Universe Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episodes 29 and 30 of Steven Universe.
I can count, I promise.
Episodes 29 and 30 of Steven Universe, Secret Team, and Island Adventure. Now, as always, let's talk about the odd-numbered episode first. In this case, Secret Team involves Steven, Pearl, and Amethyst forming a secret team. What's going on is that Steven and Amethyst are just kind of goofing around in her room, jumping through the puddles, and one of the puddles happens to lead right to Pearl's room. And so when Steven and Amethyst jump in, they find Pearl just kind of holding a rose quartz bubble. Look, obviously seeming to reminisce and cherish it or whatever, but the bubble's full of these various gem shards. Now, Amethyst knows that she shouldn't have that. That should be down in the basement with all the other gems that are bubbled. And so she thinks if she gets caught with that, she's going to be in trouble. So Amethyst has the brilliant idea to intentionally scare her. And sure enough, this does end up scaring Pearl. As such, they end up getting into an argument, and Steven does take the bubble. I forgot how he wound up getting it. I think he was going to try and put it back, maybe? Was that?
Amethyst took it for Pearl. Pearl took it,
and
took it for Amethyst to kind of like, we don't want to pop it sort of thing. And then, they both started to reach for it going, I'm going to tell on you. No, you won't.
And they wound up popping it. And when it did, well, disembodied limbs.
Everywhere.
Yes, all the gem shards end up forming, instead of full-on gems, body parts. Which is kind of a terrifying thought, that when a gem gets shattered, their body can still reform as individual parts.
Yeah.
It's kind of disturbing. But bottom line is, because this is in Pearl's room, and that's full of fountains, they end up getting swept to various parts of the temple. And Amethyst and Pearl realize, if Garnet sees those, she'll know what we did, and we'll be screwed. So they decide, we'll just go and get them, bubble them up, put it back. No, Garnet won't be the wiser. And Steven takes it as, we're going to be a little secret team. So they just go along with it because it makes Steven happy. But we end up getting a little montage of Pearl, Amethyst, and Steven hunting down the various gem shards, poofing them, and then bringing them all back to Pearl's room, where once they get them all together, Steven ends up bubbling them. Now, Steven thinks, this was great. This is nice. It was cool to actually do this. What are we going to do next? But the instant the job is done, Pearl and Amethyst are like, that's it. We're done. There's no reason for us to keep doing this anymore, and end up just kind of going their separate ways. Steven, of course, is getting nostalgic for this because he thinks, this was cool, I want to keep doing it. So he does try to bring them back together, but all this really does is just get Pearl and Amethyst to fight, to start fighting even more, and to say they never want to be on the same team with each other. As such, Steven, desperate to get the secret team back together, does tell Garnet what happened and tells her about the secret team and why it was formed. So Garnet says, I have an idea how to fix this, but we need to form our own little secret team. As such, Garnet takes Amethyst and Steven back to Pearl's room and does say, I know about the gem shards, and as part of the plan, Steven admits that it was all his fault, and Pearl and Amethyst,
how could you, Steven?
Right under the bus. Just right under the bus. As such, Garnet says that Steven shall just have to come with her just to get his punishment, only for a giant hand to grab her and pull her under the fountain. As such, they believe that they probably missed the shard, and I admit, seeing the giant hands actually looks really creepy, especially when one pops out of a fountain, and you can see it just kind of stretching all over the surface.
Tentacly, limb. And
it actually looks really creepy, especially since it's, all black, and it's, just weird. And apparently there's more than one, because another pops out of another fountain, and so Pearl and Amethyst go to fight their own individual arms, but the arms overpower them and just grab them, and so as they're trying to fight them off, they realize they're outclassed. These things beat them. Amethyst is too freaked out to shapeshift. Pearl is not in the right mindset to fight back, and they all admit, and Steven, Amethyst, and Pearl all admit, oh my god, we shouldn't. This is all our fault. Pearl says I shouldn't have taken the gem shards. Amethyst says I shouldn't have pushed you, and Steven says we should have just told her in the first place. And then Garnet rises up from the fountain that they're standing on. It turns out those arms are hers. She was faking it. As such, she drops Amethyst and Pearl and sucks her arms back, and rightfully chews Amethyst and Pearl out for saying, so you guys can't get along unless you think I'm trying to kill you? As such, she pretty much tells Steven, as you said, that Steven, I know what you did was wrong, but it's okay but it's okay. You were just trying to protect everyone and trying to trying to have everyone get along. Which even Steven admits that he only wanted the secret team back together because he liked seeing Pearl and Amethyst getting along. But Garnet says that he shouldn't feel like he has to choose a side, which is that's what Garnet said. She said they made you feel like you had to take their side.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but when there are no sides here, we're all on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
As such, they symbolically end the secret team because their cards were VIP pizza cards. They all rip them up, and Steven ends the episode by saying, "You know what? Between the four of us, we could have gotten a free pizza." So, which now brings us to Island Adventure. In this this is a Lars and Sadie episode. In the beginning of the episode, the gems are investigating an island where a gem monster is, but they have seemingly lost it. So they just kind of call the mission quits and go back to the temple. As such, Steven ends up warping them there himself, so he declares himself the Warp Master. And as for the rest of the gems, they say they have to go and deal with something else, but that's under the ocean, so Steven can't come with them. So Steven takes this opportunity to go around to Beach City and tell everyone he's the Warp Master, with his first stop being the Big Donut, where he sees Lars and Sadie
surviving as retail workers.
Yes. Sadie looks like she has the life drained out of her and Lars is sleeping. And so Steven makes an order, but when Sadie tries to get it, she accidentally wakes Lars up, which prompts the two of them to get into an argument. But Steven thinks maybe they could use a break and says, "I actually know a good place where you could have a vacation." And so, whilst Lars isn't exactly for it, Sadie does talk him into at least trying it out. So Steven ends up taking them back to the warp pad and warps them back to the island. However, Lars is still not exactly happy to be there. He still thinks, I don't really want to be here. There's no reception. It looks kind of drab. And then the instant he hears that there was a monster on this island, he's like, nope.
Understandably.
Yeah, he just wants to leave. Meanwhile, Sadie's just trying to say, oh, come on, you're not even giving this place a chance. Just try to look at it. It looks pretty nice. But Lars still isn't taking it. In fact, he gets as far as the beach and decides, you know what, screw this, and turns back. But when he tries to find the warp pad, it's seemingly disappeared, which justifiably freaks him out. Especially since like I said, there's no reception on this island. So he can't exactly call for help. As such, Steven, Lars, and Sadie decide they should try to make the best of this. So with Steven even apparently saying that the gems will come looking at them at some point, so they should probably just try and do what they can to be comfortable until then. And so after that, we do see them trying to form their own little makeshift home on this island as they start fishing for food, Sadie goes fishing for food, Lars cooks it, Steven provides entertainment by singing. Things do seem to be going well, and we even get a montage over one of Steven's songs. What was the name of the song called?
I'm honestly not sure. It's very catchy. It's the ukulele song.
Yeah, it's one of the ukulele songs.
It's a beautiful night, something.
Oh yeah, it's about how nice the place is. It's a gym, yeah, but it is a catchy song. But yeah, days go by, and they do end up surviving here, and they do seem to have some bit of stability while they're here. The only and through the whole thing, and through it all, it looks like Sadie and Lars are getting closer. But even through all this, Lars still wants to get off the island, as at one point he tries again to make a call on his phone. There's still no service, and he gets so fed up and hits his limit that he chucks his phone into the ocean. Sadie goes to check on him, and he just has a full-on breakdown. He says, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to go home again. And Sadie's like, oh, you're just homesick, and it kind of does cause him to lash out a bit. But he even does talk to her and say, Sadie, you ever feel like you're alone even when you're not really alone? And when Sadie blushes, he goes in for a kiss. And they're just kind of all comforting, and it does look like they're having a moment, which Steven ends up interrupting because he does not know what privacy is.
No.
But any moments they would have had come to an end when they hear commotion coming from their camp. When they go back to check, it turns out there's a monster there. It's invisible. Yeah, it turns out the reason why the gems were found was because they couldn't see it. It blended in. And basically the only visible part of this gem monster is its gem itself. So considering how much foliage is on the island, it could probably very easily blend in and make it just look like a rock. As such, with the realization this monster is here, they cut and run. I mean, they get knocked off a cliff, but then they cut and run. And so since Steven isn't really a fighter yet, He can't exactly defend himself, Lars and Sadie, and so this is just causing Lars to even break down further, and says he can just cry and say, I just want to go home. And so Sadie kind of gets a look of determination and redirects the group back to the forest. And the reason for this? She knows what the warp pad is. Because she covered it up. Yep, when they first arrived, when Steven and Lars stepped away, she covered up the warp pad with leaves because she knew Lars would want to leave right away. And in her defense, she says that he needs this. He needs all this. Lars is justifiably pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair, he makes the one claim that she did all this to make a pass at him, which I don't think was the case at all.
Yeah.
But no, his anger is just. But besides that, his anger is justified. She essentially stranded him on this place, and he's just worried, and he was away from his family, away from his friends, away from his life. No, she's not the good guy here. She's not. Mm. But in the meantime, while they're arguing about this, it doesn't really go. The argument ends up resulting in Lady Sadie angrily pushing him off of a cliff, which, again, that was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
But it ends up pushing him into a mud pile where the monster from before ends up cornering him. Thankfully, Sadie
embraced her inner Amazonian, warrior and just charged it like she was trying to tackle it on a football field.
Which does get enough mud on it to see its face.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, she's able to land a killing blow when Steven throws her spear, which she'd been using for fishing, and she does end up poofing the gem monster, with Steven going down to bubble it. Mm-hmm. As such, with that in mind, Steven helps the pair get back up. Lars thanks Sadie for saving his life, but Sadie kind of has had the wind taken out of her sails.
It's like, don't mention it in a very,
don't read into it.
Yeah.
And the episode ends with Steven warping them away, so. Okay, so what did you think of the episodes?
I enjoyed them. I really enjoy Secret Team as an episode. It's just a really cute little episode.
Yeah, I like. So,
mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah.
I do find it interesting. I do find it a fun little thing that well, not really, but fun. But way to describe it. That Amethyst and Pearl, they don't get along unless it's specifically trying to prevent even worse things from happening than if they just didn't deal with the problem. But, the whole that I don't understand where they thought they would be able to hide something popping a bubble and releasing shards, from Garnet when,
Yeah, there's no, that's, yeah. I agree with you on that. What I like is that, as we've seen in previous episodes, Pearl and Amethyst, they can work well together. If they have a common goal, they work perfectly in sync. And this episode does showcase that. When they're both afraid that Garnet will come after them, they actually work in perfect harmony. Because during the montage where we see them going after the gem shards, they're just they're covered. They got each other's back. They're
literally doing combo moves, tossing each other around.
They're actually working well together.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, you can kind of understand why Steven would want the Secret Team back, because
it's a good vibe. It's great to see people that you enjoying time together, even if it's just a temporary thing or through a very specific situation, that they're okay being around each other.
Yeah.
That being said, also that they were so okay dragging Steven into a very potentially dangerous mess up on their part. Honestly.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's they're so afraid. That's another thing. While it is nice to see them working in sync, because they do normally argue a lot, which makes sense. They are two very different people, but when they actually are in sync, unfortunately, it's over something that's not exactly nice. And as a result, they kind of drag Steven in because he's associated with the mess up. He knows about the mess up.
I understand because he was, right there when it all happened and everything. And he is from my understanding, he's the only one that can do that specific sort of bubble. Yeah,
they kind of needed him for the mission. And on top of that, because of how Steven is, it probably is a good idea to keep his mouth quiet, because he does like to talk about stuff.
Right, but even still, saying it's a secret team and your mission is to make sure none of this information gets into anyone else's hands, and then dealing with it yourself as much as you're able. would probably have been better as far as being a guardian to this child goes, because realistically they are responsible for this kid, and they
Yeah.
did decide, okay, in order to keep us from getting in trouble for having it in the first place and then for making it pop, the bubble pop, then like we'll just involve the kid.
Yeah.
He
Like,
was literally getting smothered by a giant arm.
yeah, pretty much. Like, again, yeah, they do. They just kind of drag him into it. And at the same time, though, what I do like about the episode is that it does kind of showcase more of Pearl and Amethyst dynamic.
Right.
Because what I do, we do see it from Steven's perspective, because normally they are not a good fit for each other. Like they're on the same team.
Yin-yang.
Yeah, they're very yin and yang. While they're on the same team, you do see that when you can see them work together and work in sync, like we saw in this episode, and especially like in the Opal episode. But sorry,
You're good.
pizza. But like I said, when it comes to that, their goal, like we said, their goals only happen to align if it's something drastic or something worse that could affect them both. And so in this case, when they both have a shared goal, they can work together perfectly. But the instant they no longer have that goal, they're back at each other's throats. And it makes sense why Steven would actually want to have the secret team go back, because
I mean, as soon as everything was done, it was like Pearl was going so far as to going, "What secret team? I have no clue what you're talking about."
like she just wiped her hands of it.
Right. And to Steven, the whole thing was just a fun game that
Yeah.
he was playing with his friends. Now all of a sudden they're acting like it doesn't exist. Like,
Yeah, and which makes you understand why Steven wants to get them back together, because like you said, he likes seeing them happy. He likes seeing them actually working side by side instead of just always arguing with each other. And so when he does try to get them back together for a job, and they say, "No, the team is done. I don't want to be here with you anymore," and they own Amethyst and Pearl, even go so far as say, "I never want to be on a team with you ever again." Yeah, it can make you understand why Steven does get desperate. Now, to be fair, what he did is also kind of a Steven move, because I think he would have done that eventually. He would have told other people, because he just likes to have the minutia.
Right.
But at the same time, you understand his motives. He just wanted to see Amethyst and Pearl getting along. And yeah, it was something fun, something nice, something they could do together. And but once the job is done, they just don't want to do it anymore. Like they just say, "We're done. This never happened." And Steven's like, "No, but it did happen. We all had fun together. I want to get that back." And it's not working. Which is kind of what makes Garnet's statement at the end saying, "You guys can't get along unless you think I'm going to try and kill you. We're all on the same team here. There are no sides." I like that, at least, because I do like seeing Garnet kind of calling them out on their actions, saying, "Look, it's like, you guys, I don't want you guys fighting over something this stupid. We are all on the same team. We're all friends. We are not just going to try and go against each other like that." So I do like that. I like that, and I do kind of like the finality with them ripping up the cards and saying, "We're all on the same team. We're not just going to fight like that." I like that. Which is, it does help unify it, and does show that they are trying to still be united whole, and while they can work together, there's still issues.
Right. I do also feel, though, that, like, Steven's way of dealing with Steven thought this whole thing was a game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he understood the seriousness of the situation at all, because realistically, you have disembodied gem parts that only have their last their fragmented last emotion imprinted on them, is, like, the way that I have understood it to be. And most of these were gathered during wartime. I'm sure none of those limbs were happy limbs.
No.
He was in danger, low-grade danger maybe, but still in danger.
Yeah, but to him, it was all just a game.
Yeah, to him it was a fun mission and playing with friends. It would have been the same as playing pirate make-believe outside on your treehouse ship.
Yeah, he liked the secret team.
And so it would make sense to, one, try and fabricate another heist for them to play.
Yeah.
And then when
that's
that
probably
failed,
why he told Garnet like it was. Because
exactly, that's my thought.
Well, for him, it wasn't a big deal. It was just, there's something that they could do together. But then when Amethyst and Pearl didn't want to do it anymore, and he wanted to get them back together because he wanted them to get along, he went to Garnet and said, "Can you help me get them back together?"
I mean, that's my thought, because realistically, he only goes to Garnet to be like, we need to form our own secret team, and basically trying to restart the game.
Yeah, because he just wants to see them getting along. I like that. But at the same time, I do like that when Garnet learns the story, while she goes along with it for Steven's sake, you can tell she's already figured out
Right. I
what's
feel
going
like she
on.
was the one, like, I feel like Garnet understood that, like, I know that Garnet understood when she heard and like, this Steven told her the whole thing that went down. She understood how much danger Steven was in, how little he understood about the situation, but he also how much Amethyst and Pearl knew what was going on, knew that it wasn't okay, and still put Steven in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that seemed to be the part she was more pissed off about. So, like, yeah, she didn't really inform Steven how their little prank, getting back at the secret team would go, but.
No, because to be fair, like she was gonna. I think she kind of put him in. She knew that he was blissfully ignorant, so she
Right.
kept him in the loop enough until that she had to play her part to scare the piss out of Amethyst and Pearl. Because ultimately, because Steven did come clean somewhat, and as such, when Pearl and Amethyst did try throwing him under the bus, she decided that they needed punishment as well before she could get the message in, and that's probably why she didn't. Why the only extent of that bit of prank was just that bit of the prank was not telling Steven what she was planning to do.
Right. And then I also feel like that, is wrapped up beautifully with the way that she addresses at the end, basically saying, Steven, you know what you did was wrong and it's not okay, and you know you shouldn't have done it, don't do it again. But all in all, it's their fault for putting you in that position to begin with, and
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah.
But
overall, though, it is still a nice episode. It is because it is nice seeing Pearl and Amethyst do work together, but I do like that they showcase the friction in their relationship and that there are specific circumstances where they can work together, but ultimately they have to remember they're on the same team and that they do need to get along and that they are and that despite their differences, they are working towards the same thing, and that's what they always should be doing. And then likewise, it was fun seeing Steven try to get them back together with his little game, although it was kind of dumb seeing him just going around moping about it as if it was the good old days. Okay.
Like a scarred, like, old detective.
Yeah. And then how it ultimately ended with Garnet pretty much calling them out, telling them we're all on the same team, we're the Crystal Gems, and so they finally realized, yeah, we shouldn't have done what we did, or they should have just come clean, etc. Ultimately, that was a nice thing, and it ultimately felt like a sweet conclusion that I felt satisfied with. So.
Definitely. In reference to the second.
Yes, Island Adventure.
Episode.
I'll say I think it's all right, but what kind of whole? But it's also but basically as we said, it's a Sadie and Lars episode, and but it's also an episode where Lars is not the biggest asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like the Island Adventure episode is a real good show of how Lars and Sadie are not good for each other. Like, they're good as friends, and they really have a great time as friends, but as soon as they try and push the envelope for whether it's, I just want to help you be a better person, or I just wanted to invite you to something, like that sort of stuff, it seems like it really doesn't go where it's supposed to go.
Now, one of the complaints I've had with the other Lars episodes, how he's usually learning the same thing over and over, which, to be fair, is kind of realistic, but from a storytelling perspective, it can be annoying. But the thing is, in other episodes with Lars, while he's been a dick, he's usually been the biggest dick. Like, in the episode where he wanted to get with the cool kids, he was constantly acting like a jerk or being shallow, and then he blamed Steven, even though it wasn't really his fault, because Steven was getting along better with the cool kids. Or in the last episode with Lars, where he faked a back injury, and honestly, Sadie's revenge, I felt a little justified in that, even if she later regretted it because it was a flaming donut.
Yeah, I mean, that was property damage.
Yeah, that was just like even she said he hurt me, but I didn't want to hurt him this bad. But this is an episode where we see that Lars is not the biggest asshole here. Now, to be fair, he does kind of act like a jerk in the episode. Like, when Steven brings...
You can say it. He acts like a jerk in the episode.
He does act like a jerk. Like, Steven brings him and Sadie to this island, and from the outset, he does not like it. He doesn't want to give it a chance. He's complaining, bitching, moaning. He just...
As soon as he steps off the warpath, there's no cell service.
Yeah, he is just being whiny.
They're surrounded by geodes taller than him, but there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, like he even complains about the sun, I think, at one point. Like, he is complaining. So, to be fair, he probably could have used a wake-up call, but Sadie went the wrong way with it.
Right.
Like, her solution to try and get him to appreciate everything was to strand him here.
Mm-hmm. Basically forcibly doing a no technology retreat vacation.
Which, okay, to be fair, I am going to play devil's advocate a little bit on Sadie's behalf. Lars, I think, did need a wake-up call in some regard. And to be fair, this is an episode where we probably see him showcasing the most bare emotion. Because being stuck here, away from everything, it does bring out the less shallow side of him. The part of him that does care about his life, about his family, about getting home. And when he does go to Sadie and try and get comfort, you do see that there is genuine human emotion in there. It does help showcase there is more to Lars than just being shallow. But again, Sadie went about it the wrong way. She intentionally trapped him on this island with a monster that they have no idea. They had no idea was even there.
No creature that can kill them.
And she forced him to stay there. Like, again,
knowing full well how they can get home.
Yeah, basically, and Lars acted kind of like a jerk in the episode. But between the both of them, I think Sadie's coming out ahead as the biggest asshole here. Because it isn't until they're finally in danger that she finally decides, we have to go back. Keep this in mind, like I said, when Lars had his breakdown and threw his cell phone into the ocean, her response was, "Oh, you're just homesick."
As he is crying because I don't think I'll ever see home again.
Yeah, that's just kind of effed up. Like, that's your reaction?
Because she's resting with the knowledge that she knows they're going to go home eventually. He thinks they're 100% stranded.
Yeah. Like, that's just no. That is no. Like, I feel like you could have gotten a better reaction if she had talked him into it. But to be fair, that probably would not have happened. But again, her solution to try and work around it to get him to accept the loveliness of their whole environment was to freaking take the option away from him. Even when she says, "Why won't you let me help you?" when he justifiably freaks out at her, that's not the right way to do it. Oh yeah, he's not letting you help him? Bitch, you trapped him on an island for days. For days he's only had fish to eat, which you have caught for him. You're both looking haggard. Your clothes are ripped.
I feel like that's a really good this shows two of the biggest ways on why they don't click. They don't go together.
Exactly.
Lars is lashing out every time Lars has any sort of emotion, any sort of something negative happen to him, he lashes it out. Whether it's verbally, whether it's, physically, whether it's chucking his phone into the ocean, whatever it is, it's always external. Someone else did it. I just am so mad at you specifically.
Yeah.
While Sadie takes problems and then goes, I can fix them until they are past the point of being a problem that can be fixed and are now just damage.
Yeah, that is kind of actually, that is a thing with Sadie. Like, she does try to, every time we've seen her, she has one to try and fix problems, and she does, and when Lars does rely on her, she does step up because she thinks that they're equal, and that's when she feels when she felt like she was getting taken advantage of, she did want justifiable revenge.
Right.
But with that, which even then she only did because Lars kept trying to do the broken back thing again. She said, "You know what? You play with my emotions. I'm gonna break him."
Right. But here's the thing. At the same time, most of us watching that episode where he was faking an injury and everything, we knew that he was faking, and even outside of not seeing him ever be injured or anything, he was over the top, and it's kind of established that he does this stuff a lot anyway.
Yeah.
And Sadie lets it happen and allows it to be a thing because
she's
I'm being
too.
helpful. Yeah, she's being helpful.
But then you got this episode.
Right.
Where you kind of see the dark side of that. She thinks that the only way to help him is to force him to do what she thinks is the right thing.
Right.
And as a result of this...
Mm-hmm.
As a result... No, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of this, it doesn't really feel like... It really does feel like she's the bad guy here.
Mm-hmm.
Because in trying to fix a problem, she just kind of... She intentionally cut him off from everything. And the only reason that she finally revealed that she hid the warp pad was because their lives were in danger. Which, okay, fine. She does care enough about him to want to help him. When she pushed him off the cliff, into the mud, she's like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. But in the end, when she looks beaten down after she saved his life, I honestly think she deserved that. I honestly think she deserved to feel like crap there. Because yes, she saved his life, but his life wouldn't have been in danger if it wasn't for her.
Right. 100%. And honestly, in my personal opinion, like, I understand where Sadie was kind of like, I do not understand the thought process of stranding people on an island.
No. We are not justifying that.
I do understand, though, how as a teenager, adding a whole, magical gems and all that fun stuff into this, how you can get, well, this person I really, really like needs a break. We are now on this, like, appearing to be tropical paradise of an island. I can make him have a break, especially if
you can see the twisted logic somewhat, and to be and as we emphasized, maybe Lars did need a break. Maybe he did need this because, like we said, he and Sadie grew closer. He actually did break down some barriers there. It was clear that he probably did need to step away, but again, she stranded him on an island, and the emotions that he felt were tainted when he realized, you stranded me here.
No one deserves to have their choice in that taken away, where you can't leave.
Exactly.
You can't escape any sort of bonding scenario or anything like that, because you just have to stay there. And, like, particularly if someone, like, it's one thing if it was actually a missing warp pad, but, like, the fact that she knew where it was, he was freaking out from day one that they were stranded, and he did not come around till right before they had to leave. And even then, it was I kind of enjoy the fact that I'm at least not alone here.
Exactly.
More than it was, well, at least I got a break in this. Like, he was stressed the whole time.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he needs to go home and have a vacation from his vacation.
Exactly.
In the most real way possible.
Exactly. Again, and by the end, pretty much, I see no way that this could have ended well. Like, because the instant he would have learned that the warp pad was lost, I feel like that would have changed everything. Now, to be fair, maybe Sadie's plan was like, either someone comes to get them, so they suddenly find the warp pad, or maybe if no one does come, she just conveniently finds it. But even then, the whole thing would have still felt tainted, and eventually, if the truth did come out, Lars would have still had the same justified reaction, because everything they had would have been built on a lie. And as a result of that, it would have tainted everything. And as such, when Lars does get angry at her for hiding it, it's justifiable anger. Though I do believe him saying, you did all this to make a pass at me, is just typical Lars BS.
I feel like that was just him lashing out because he was upset that he was trapped, and that he had a vulnerable moment with a girl that kind of, at least in the way that I view the show, it's almost like you're not quite cool enough for me sort of vibes when it comes to dating, which is its own problem and all that fun stuff. I personally think that Sadie, while doing some really stupid shit, she deserves better.
Oh, she does, definitely.
Like, Lars and Sadie deserve better from each other independently.
Yeah, they work as friends, because even in the end of the episode, they still care about each other by the end, but it's clear that it's going to take some time for them to heal from this, because by the end, he does thank Sadie for saving his life, but you can still feel a bit of the damage in her demeanor when she says, don't read into it. Because, at that point, which, again, she should feel guilty. at this point, whatever goodwill that was built has kind of broken down, and her saving his life only builds it back up a little bit. Just a little bit. Because, again, the last episode kind of had Lars damage their relationship. This time it's Sadie's turn, and it does well in showcasing they're probably not a good fit.
Right.
They're good as friends, but only as friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe they're terrible together.
Yeah, I mean, I feel well, they are, at some point they are together, I thought, but...
I don't know if they're really together, but it's always just like
It's
lingering.
always danced around a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like one of the big reasons, though, why it is danced around so much is because I mentioned this to you earlier. We see a lot of, we see basically the whole show following Steven's point of view around. And Steven seems to be the only one that's really pushing this idea that Lars and Sadie should go together.
Yeah.
I feel like he did the same with the mailman and Garnet.
Oh, he tried, but...
And I feel like that, yeah.
He's a shipper on deck.
Yeah, which it kind of changes, you know.
Yeah, but yeah.
Anyway.
Overall, though, I would still say the episode is all right, despite Sadie's dickish behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the one hand, it does showcase a different side to Lars at the very least. Because despite what Sadie did, it did actually bring out some. It actually allowed you to see another side of Lars. That there is a human beneath the shallowness, and that it does take a bit of digging to get there. The designs of the island are really nice, especially because everything has a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the nature of the monster. It was invisible, and how Sadie does take it down is honestly badass.
Mm-hmm. A sharpened stick. That is it. Just football tackle, stick to the back. That's impressive.
And again, that moment does, I think, in my opinion, showcase that there is still a little bit of goodwill there that could be built back up on. But this episode does well in showcasing that they really should not probably be a couple. So they both play a part in why that is. And again, and like I said, while Lars is kind of a jerk here, Sadie comes out at the end carrying the asshole flag. So overall, still an alright episode. Good pacing, some cute moments, a very strong but necessary climax. Overall an alright episode. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
You have anything else to add?
Nope, I agree. It was a great episode. I feel like it was a great moment for, building and showing the chain, or the extra layer, I should say, of their Sadie and Lars' relationship. And, showing exactly where those kinks are, because, yeah, they are friends now and everything, but it's, very heavily romanticized around them a lot, but having an episode that really kind of clearly lays out, even if you're just looking at how they communicate, their communication styles are hurtful to each other.
Yeah.
And you really get to see that, and I find that important. Yeah. Even if it's not the most fun episode, not necessarily my favorite, still solid, still good, great for the plot.
Overall, first episode really good, second episode alright for me. Overall, I think that's about it. Mm-hmm. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson.
And I'm Haley Dudley.
And I'll see you next week. Take care.
Well.